Well, while we've been watching events in Washington this last hour, crucial development in Northern Ireland tonight. The leader of the DUP, Jeffrey Donaldson, has been meeting with executive members of his party to discuss a possible deal to restore power sharing at Stormont next week. The DUP collapsed the executive nearly 2 years ago in protest at the post-Brexit trading arrangements. The party's been in talks with the UK government this past year, seeking changes to the so-called Windsor framework, and it would seem there's been enough progress to put something to the wider party. There are around 130 members of the executive. The party officers not present at this meeting tonight, and only they would have the power to sign off on a prospective deal. So let's bring in our Ireland correspondent, Chris Page. Just talk to me about that bit. So this is the wider group of the executive, Chris. But I guess if they row in behind Jeffrey Donaldson, then he's in business.
Yes, you do get the sense that we're arriving at something of a political pivot point in this process. It is almost 2 years since the Democratic Unionist Party, in effect, collapsed the power-sharing regional government here in Northern Ireland over its concerns about trading arrangements brought in after Brexit. Unionists are opposed to the fact that Northern Ireland is under different rules to the rest of the UK. In effect, Northern Ireland has remained in the EU single market for goods, and unionists would say that creates an economic border between Northern Ireland and Great Britain. So Sir Geoffrey does seem to be inching his party towards restoring the devolved government in Belfast. However, he is facing some opposition both within his party and from more hardline unionists outside. So you can see here there is a group of about 50 demonstrators outside the venue where that meeting of the DUP party executive has been held. As DUP members were arriving in their cars, the protesters were shouting at them, urging to, in their words, do the right thing. Something hasn't gone particularly to plan for Jeffrey Donaldson tonight. This was supposed to be a confidential party meeting, but it has been, in effect, tweeted out on social media. A running commentary is being given by a blogger who is an opponent of Sir Geoffrey's apparent plans to restore power sharing. So Sir Geoffrey certainly is facing a bit of a struggle to make his case for a return to power sharing on the basis of what he has secured, the concessions he has secured from the UK government. And it is expected that he will speak to the media sometime in the next 2 hours. The legal deadline for the restoration of Stormont is next Thursday, so there is a bit of time, and it seems that Sir Geoffrey Donaldson feels he's got as much as he's going to get from the UK government now, and he's trying to get his wider party to agree.
Yeah, I mean, there are two camps here, aren't there, Chris? The people behind you want to know that the internal market is secure and that nothing gets in the way of the internal UK market. And then there is the wider Northern Ireland public who can see a financial package that would come to Northern Ireland if Stormont was returned. And that is crucially important, of course, when salaries need to be paid and we're in a cost of living crisis.
That's right. The UK government, we know, has dangled a financial package worth £3.3 billion sterling to try to, as it were, help the DUP get back into the regional government at Stormont, allow the regional government to be resurrected. All the other four main parties in Northern Ireland say they want the regional government to be reformed immediately. They say that major decisions aren't being made, that it's having an impact on public services in Northern Ireland. And as you say, we've had a series of strikes in recent months from public sector workers who say that their pay has fallen well behind workers in the rest of the UK. So parties like the biggest party now in the Northern Ireland Assembly, the Irish Nationalist Party, Sinn Féin, say that the time for a decision by the DUP is well past. But Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, the DUP leader, has said his party alone will make its own mind up about this. This process of consulting, as it were, party members is a vital part of the process. And his argument that he has been using, particularly since about October, November time, has been that the best way to secure Northern Ireland's place in the UK in the long term is for unionists to be involved in governing Northern Ireland. So he thinks having the regional government back that is what will ultimately secure the union. But he's adamant that he does need the right deal, and I think over the next few days we will see if this deal is going to be enough to get the wider DUP party to get behind any plan to restore power sharing here in Belfast.
Chris Page in Northern Ireland, important event this evening. We'll watch that closely in Belfast. Thank you very much for the moment. Let me just bring in our panel on that. I mean, clearly, if the Northern Ireland Secretary Chris Steele was going to call elections, fresh elections, after everything that's gone on over the last 2 years, politically the DUP would be in a much weaker position. And as Chris was just saying, from Jeffrey Donaldson's point of view, probably it is time for the good of the party to get back into Stormont.
Yeah, I think Jeffrey Donaldson is quite a sensible politician and would like to go back into power sharing. And I think it's very important the Assembly does get up and running again for all sorts of reasons. But underlying this problem, Christian, of course, is the fact that we left the customs union when we left the EU, which we didn't even need to do at the time. And I just wish that politicians, and particularly maybe the Labour Party, would look again at whether we shouldn't be going back into the customs union, because that would solve this problem at a stroke. And it would also benefit the people of Northern Ireland in terms of their economy and their wealth. Yeah,
that wouldn't get in the way of some of the trade deals that the British government wants to secure. I mean, I'm thinking principally in terms of the deal they're talking about at the moment with Canada, which of course has been held up by hormone-grown beef. That's the sort of beef that wouldn't be able to go across a border from Northern Ireland into the south. So you wouldn't be able to do a deal with Canada, would you?
No, I think you've got to think that all trade deals are good, particularly one with the US would be particularly good. But the fact is that Europe remains our biggest trading partner, and Brexit has done nothing but damage that relationship, particularly the trading goods as opposed to services. And I just think that we didn't need to leave the customs union, and we should look seriously at rejoining, because otherwise I don't see there's a solution to this problem in Ireland, actually, with a border down the Irish Sea.
Kelly, there would be a lot of people who will be pleased to see this in your neck of the woods. I remember last year, I think there were about 200 senators in Congress, men and women came over who have a stake, ancestry in Ireland, and have a stake in what was going on, and of course are such fierce defenders of the Good Friday Agreement.
That's definitely key. It'll be also interesting to hear his remarks after this meeting, to hear how it spun, what exactly happened, because from what I see, that people weren't going to be talking to the media, so that he's going to go out front and kind of tell it. But I think it's key to think about the people in Northern Ireland and how this is going to affect them, how that's going to make life easier or better or worse for them. And I think that's key, and that's really important to consider, of the ramifications of affecting the people from Northern Ireland.
OK, we'll watch that closely. More on that on the BBC webpage. Of course, you'll be able to find it there, and Chris Page is filing for that. So I'm just looking at it. So there will be updates through the evening.